Welcome to the DJ Insider Podcast, sponsored by Amplified Events.
It's the only podcast where we break down insider information from our weddings, experiences, and advice from over 15 years in the wedding industry.
We're your hosts. I'm Mike Kane, owner of Amplified Events.
And I'm Chris Zart, general manager of Amplified Events.
Let's get into it. Welcome. Well, we're here. We're doing it. This is our first ever Amplified Events DJ wedding industry podcast. I'm Mike Kane.
Owner. I'm Chris Zart, general manager.
Yes, and we are
Full-time DJ.
That's right. We are wedding DJs. So this kind of podcast will be related to that. We'll be talking about DJ stuff that relates to that, stuff that relates to the wedding industry. It'll kind of be a mix match, and we'll hopefully start to narrow it down as we go and figure that out from day to day. But this is our first one, so really excited to be here. Our friend Zach Marvel's putting this on for us out of the video podcast studio at his property here in Valparaiso, Indiana. So we're excited to do that.
Season's getting started. This is our first upcoming fully booked Saturday, so that's gonna be fun. Got all of our DJs out there in the field doing some hard work, but yeah, where are you gonna be at this weekend?
I'm gonna be at White Oak Farm in Michigan City. Beautiful newer property owned by I believe the Instrom family. They're I think it's the Jewelry Fortune, but yeah, pretty
like
good.
Venue.
Pretty nice, beautiful thing, and we're kind of fully loaded. It's going to be pretty much every service we offer. We're going to be doing ceremony, live music for cocktail hour. We're going to be doing dinner on our vinyl records, which is kind of cool. We'll have a photo booth. We're going to have our uplighting, our dance floor lighting, and of course, going to be DJing. Got a new assistant coming out, Chum. Should be good. Should be a good little day. Where are you going to be at?
Walden in Chicago.
Oh,
so heading to the city, but pretty. Easy day overall. Couple is very chill. It's past 2 weekends have just been don't have to worry about anything pretty much. They're just really easygoing people, and just no ceremony, just a reception set up and some dance floor lights. But
fantastic!
Yeah, nothing crazy.
I love that. But so tell me. So we both had weddings last weekend. We DJ'd. Tell me a little bit about yours.
So yeah, mine was really relaxed. The couple I was at Journeyman in Michigan, and met them at the distillery at their tasting, probably a few months back, and they were not even really wanting to DJ. And they're they came up to me and they're we really weren't planning on having that. We not much of a dance floor. We're gonna just have an iPad play in the corner. But they're we met you, and that was the first time a couple was we saw you. Now we want to DJ, and they completely changed their mind. So that was a good ego boost for sure, and made me feel pretty good. But yeah, they were really easygoing people. Just you could just really tell they were in love, and that was super nice. But yeah.
Did you guys do ceremony as well, or was it just DJing?
No, just reception. Sweet. They had a pretty low key ceremony. They were gonna try and do it outside, but unfortunately we got some rain, so we couldn't really do that. But it was super nice. They all were out on the back golf course for a lot of the reception. But yeah, pretty chill dance floor. Probably half the people were out there the whole time. But they were just very social creatures for sure. Just wanted to have some drinks, talk. And
were there any things that were surprising, special traditions or songs, anything?
Oh, they were a really big 90s crowd. And I don't mean just the hits, the really, I don't know, Venga Boys, stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot of
90s kind of club disco. I call it it's sugar pop, candy pop.
Bowling for Soup.
Yes.
It's just that kind of stuff. Stuff that's good sing-alongs and good just 90s
I think
dance
Barbie Girl.
Music.
I've got
I've got
that
was on there. Yeah, we had some Aqua. I was trying to sneak in Sandstorm, but I didn't have time to do that. But that was the vibe for sure.
Yes,
and
okay.
They were all kind of early 40s, late 30s, just wanted all those hits.
Yes.
Some 80s too, but yeah, it was a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. Was there anything that stood out to you that, I don't know, was there anything that was kind of unusual for a typical wedding, or was it pretty typical?
It was pretty typical. They even told me hey, all of our vendors have told us this, but this is gonna be your and their easiest wedding of the year. And they just were totally rolling with the punch, didn't care, anything that was scheduled, they just were in no rush to get to it. So,
Nice.
I mean, that part was a little different, I guess I could say, but it was nice. The one thing, too, is I played What Is Love at one point, and they were all doing the Chris Kattan, and we just DJ'd Chris Kattan's event. So that was like, I was like, oh, like,
so awesome.
little do you know.
Yes,
Yep.
we just met him, did the audio for his stand-up performance here in it's a Hobart. It's supposed to be in Valpo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's so funny that that did that. You think about that every time I hear that song now.
Yep, I can't get out of my head now, yeah. Mango.
So yeah, my wedding was pretty good. It was so a past DJ of mine moved back to the area and fell in love and get married, and he reached out and I said yes, I'd be happy to. I'd love to do it. He said there's nobody else I would trust with this, and so I have to have you there. So we met last April, and he kind of booked with us, and we did his wedding, and it was great. It was kind of cool because the bridal party I had done at least, I would say, if there was like 8 people in the bridal party, I did like 5 of their weddings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because like Eric, we did his wedding. I did John's wedding. I did Jeremy's wedding. And then Logan was in it, but we didn't do his wedding,
cool.
but I've worked with Logan
Yeah,
extensively. So it's just kind of cool, like knowing all these people. We almost did Pat and Erica's wedding. That ended up not happening. It was that was right when we left that other company. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I know these people. I've been partying with them for a long time, so it's kind of cool to do that.
What do you say compared to like your normal wedding? Just because you knew everybody, and I'm sure felt a little more comfortable. Was it kind of like really wanting to do a good job, or like were you pretty stress free overall? Like how was?
I was so yeah. Typically, if I'm, of course, I always want to do it.
Well, obviously,
but yeah, well, yeah. I never phoned it in, but yeah. But it is when someone you love, someone you care about, you really do care about all the details, and you stress a little bit more. This one specifically, I really wasn't that stressed about, and I think there's a couple of reasons. One, because I've known Tim for a long time. He DJ'd for me, DJ'd with me. We've done countless weddings together.
Right.
And so he knew what it's like to be a DJ at one of these things. And so he really made it super easy on me to just do what I needed to do a good job. I mean, they had like 10 song requests and they had like 10 don't plays. And they were like, we just trust you, do your thing.
Right.
Which was really ideal. And then they had a couple of course, special songs. And then he's like, I want to just get up and mix 1 or 2 songs. I was like, absolutely, jump in, DJ Twig up here.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. So going into it, I really wasn't too stressed. And it was really neat. He had his brother marry him, which his brother is just like this world famous tattoo artist. And he's just a really kind soul. Like his brother was tearing up like more than once. Like it was something that struck me about the ceremony, about the whole day, which I'm sure you'll have this too. When you do lots of these things, there's couples, it's obvious that they're like, we don't really know why we're getting married. It's just what you do. They're not really in love. They're not really, or they're really stressed. They really haven't gotten through their, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't do any follow up to see if they stay together or not, But it's always obvious when the couple is like super in love, super excited to be married.
Yes.
They're like best friends. Like your and Sarah's wedding was like that. Tim and Karina's wedding was like that too. Like it was just very clear. And that type of energy as a DJ, but I see it in the guests too, because I'm always looking at the guests and how they're responding. That's how you get a good dance floor. That energy is so infectious. It's just like everybody is feeling good. They're on cloud 9. We're celebrating love. Everybody just wants to have a great time because of that. And so it really makes our jobs as DJs much easier when there's love in the air. There's always supposed to be love in the air, but one of the dirty secrets is, a lot of these people, they're super stressed out. It's hard for them to have a good time. And there's a lot of politics and dynamics when you get married where this person doesn't like this person. And because of the planning process, this person doesn't trust this person. And if you've ever planned a wedding, you'll know what I'm talking about, where there's 111 opinions about how your wedding should go. And it's your wedding and everybody's not shy about telling you that.
Yes.
And then meanwhile, we're the wedding DJs, and we got to come in and we got to show these people a great time. So, but yeah, ceremony was flawless. Everybody's crying. The sound-wise, it was fantastic. Cocktail hour, super chill. But intros was really cool because I always love to get them revved up. And so we got everybody excited, all the parents excited. It really revved up the crowd. And even Karina's dad came up to me. He's like, how do you have your level of charisma, that level of energy? And I go, well, it's for Tim. He's my buddy.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy. But I was like, yeah, that's also part of the job, man. Like, I can't, you know.
It's almost like acting to a certain point. It's like you're playing this character. I mean, obviously, you're still yourself. Like, I'm always myself, but it's kind of this, like, extra, you know,
That's
like
right.
character that you're
That's
putting
right.
on as well, which is really fun to do. But
Yeah, it's kind of like, like acting. You have to be on.
Yes,
And so
yeah.
there is a energy and a dynamic that comes to that it's not how you always talk. You know, especially because you're trying to project. You're trying to, like, connect with the crowd, and you're trying to, like, hey, guys, like, let's do this, you know,
Right.
rather than being like, okay, we're going to be doing an introduction, you know, just the business, just the facts, ma'am, you know.
Yeah.
That's not us. We got to really make it that where you guys are at is the most exciting place to be right now. And these people got married, so we have a great reason to celebrate. Everybody's dressed, you know, everybody's looking great. We got great music. We got great food and drink. It's going to be a good time. What was unique about theirs was they did like family. They did a first look, which that's a lot of people do that, but he really hadn't seen her in her dress, and so it was kind of a big built up thing. And so I played like a slow, I think it was a piano version instrumental of like Falling Slowly, you know, that.
that's good, yeah.
And so it's just like, just to really set the tone for that,
Right.
to make that moment really special, really bring it home for them. And Logan comes up to me because we'd worked weddings before, but he hasn't worked a wedding for me in a few years, 5 or 6 years. And he's like, "Are you curating music for the first look?" I go, "That's exactly what I'm doing, Logan."
Building the moment.
He's like,
yeah.
"Oh, because it was kind of a little bit too perfect for what's happening in the room." So of course, you know, Tim sees her in his dress, and he just starts crying. It was really beautiful. Like,
That's
it was
awesome.
A moment.
It's crazy too, because I mean, just going through it myself last year, and I've been to hundreds of weddings before my own, and it's like there are times where I'm definitely working the wedding, and I'm in work brain, so I sometimes usually the emotions don't get to me as much, and I try and just stay professional, stay focused. But there are certain ones that like definitely get to me. But day of, not even just me, but like friends that I'd never expected to cry were crying. Like it just the emotions come through a lot stronger than you can ever expect them to. Like there's nothing you can really prepare yourself for with like a wedding day.
Yeah.
Like even though I knew, this is how the night was going to start, this is how it's going to end, everything in between, all the events, you can't prepare like how you're going to feel, how other people are going to react and feel. It's like overwhelming, but in a good way,
Yeah.
But that's awesome though.
I love that. Something that kind of surprised me, because I thought this was going to be, I've done 4 or 5 of these couples and all their friends' weddings before. This should be an easy one to get a dance floor going. And sure enough, I got it started, got things going, and 4 or 5 songs in, I lose them.
Right.
And so I had to reset. I had to do a slow song, do some old classics that get some of those older folks out, and then, some September, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and rebuild that energy.
Yeah.
And then we get going again and raging into that, 2000s, late 2000s, pop and EDM and or hip hop. That was what they liked too. And then I get 4 or 5 songs of that, and I'd lose them. So then I reset, and I'd do like some Frank Sinatra, some Stand By Me, some My Girl, and then go into like, what's that one? Ain't No Mountain High Enough,
Yeah.
some of those like classic sing along from that era. And then we build them and then lose them. It was just kind of, I'm like, what's going on? But I just, rather than question it too much, I just tried to, as a seasoned DJ, I'm like, this is really not anything I'm doing wrong. I just need to pay attention to that and reset and do plenty of, slow songs in between. And sure enough, Tim
Right.
came up at the end of the night as a fellow DJ and was like, not your fault, dude. Like, he's like, everybody just is so in love, and people love their really tight families, and they're all together, and they just want to talk too.
Yep.
So it was that feature where we love dancing. What you're doing was great. We just also wanted to talk and hang out.
And with how long the wedding day is, it is kind of crazy with like how much little time you actually have to visit and like see people. Like, you're taking pictures for hours. You're on the dance floor like the time that you can. You're sitting throughout dinner, speeches, whatnot. But you only get really that like 3, maybe 4 hours, like right at the end, like during the dance floor to like socialize and talk. And some people just have a hard time making that choice of
Yes.
like, which direction do I go? And usually it kind of sounded like they wanted both. Like,
Yeah.
oh, let's dance a little bit. And then like, let's go. Oh, need to talk to uncle, whoever, like got to get over there and
Yeah.
see them. But
Because I had done 5 other ones, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have any problem keeping them going all night.
Right.
You know, there's a moment when you know you've got them as a DJ, and you can just take them on this danceable, magical journey.
yeah,
But, you know, I wasn't getting that as easy. I really had to adjust a lot. But I just kept with it, kept at it. And then, yeah, people got looser, got excited, more dancing. And then song of the night was No Hands, you know, Waka Flocka. It literally, everybody's out there, they're singing REOC, you know, they were doing the breakdown. And then I kind of had them. And they had like the last song was really kind of cool. They did Taylor Swift's Love Story.
nice.
And they started out with like a slow dance, just the 2 of them with everybody circled around. And then they wanted me to like, everyone run in and jump and sing with them. So I'm like, go get them, you know. So everybody did. It was really kind of a cool, magical moment building to that. But I did, like, it was like Lover was the last slow song, right into Mr. Brightside,
Nice.
and then right into Love Story. And that was just the
Nice.
perfect kind of,
Good like sing-alongs
Yes.
and just building up, and yeah, that's great.
yeah. So that felt really good. We did a cool monogram for them above like the head table there and the uplights kind of surrounding. So I got some good photos and video from that. It looks really cool.
Nice.
So yeah, so that was the last things. I wrote down some notes about what to talk about. So yeah, did you guys have a song of the night? That was what I was going to ask.
Oh, my last wedding? It was one of those 90s hits. It was either like Barbie Girl or like a Venga Boys song.
hit the
I'm trying
biggest.
to remember the Venga Boys song. It was not Boom Boom. Oh, We Like to Party.
We Like
yeah,
to Party.
Yeah. That was probably the hit of the night. Yeah. And they had a lot of those a lot of like 90s, early 2000s pop punk too. That was like a lot.
Those are good.
And I was thinking usually that's like last hour hits. I was kind of mixing them in throughout the night because, you know, their whole playlist was 90s, so it just kind of worked. But they were hitting pretty good, and I was thinking like, oh, last hour, like I'm really gonna get them. But they were like so exhausted that they just like they were all singing on the side. Like every person in the room was singing along and like hanging, but they, you know, no one wanted to like dive out there. And that was like, I'm like, oh, Mr. Brightside's gonna kill, and it like, and usually it is, and it did, but from a distance. And they're all like, yeah, I want to go home now, like just exhausted, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
That surprised me. Those pop punk, which has been hitting lately, and I thought it would hit with this group, it didn't. I did Fall Out Boys, you know, Sugar We're Going Down.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I've got that. It's like re-drummed and it's shorter, and it has an acapella outro. And then I mixed it right into the middle, Jeremy Jimmy World, you know, just take some time.
Right.
And both of those just, you know, crickets. I had to reset. So I'm like, all right, well, we're not going to do more of that, because I was going to go into like Panic at the Disco and do, what's that one, All Time Low, Dear Maria. I got your pictures.
It's hard when you make this whole
yellow
plan.
card. Yes. Yeah.
Like you're like, oh, I'll start with this song, and then you figure out like the next 9 to play, and you're like, yeah, like I got them. And then like if that doesn't hit, then you're like, well, now I have to go in a completely different direction. It's just
It's like in chess, you get your queen out there, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna get them in check in 2 moves, and then they kill your queen.
Yep.
And you're like, that was my whole plan. I'm gonna have to come up with a new plan. I guess I'll use a pawn or a rook or something. What's one thing that you wish people knew about DJs, or what it's like to DJ?
I would relate it to kind of like a retail experience, like working in retail, of like what we have to deal with like throughout the job, like people at weddings that are super pushy. This is one of the few jobs where people feel like they can tell you how to do your job, and there's no understanding. There's no consequence for them asking. Like, it's just, and you've mentioned this before, I wouldn't walk into like surgery and be like, all right, are you sure you want to cut there? Like, you know,
or pilot.
Yeah.
Like, you're in the right holding pattern.
Shouldn't you be hitting these buttons like up here? But like DJ, you know, it's just like, oh,
you told your Uber driver how to drive, they'd be super annoyed at you.
Right.
And they may tell you get out of the car.
It's just because we're entertainers and we work in the entertainment industry as well as like the service industry. It's kind of like a combination of both. People feel like they have control over you and your job. But yeah, I would say, most people don't know that side of it. And just like, and I would say the big thing too that I've been telling a lot of couples is like, I feel like we're more event planners and coordinators than we are DJs. Like we're coordinators that happen to throw a good party
Yes.
and like play music. But throughout the day before the dance floor, we are like, making sure people where they need to be. We're on the mic, trying to keep everything organized, telling guests like, hey, grab your seats at this time. Checking in with the couple throughout the entire night, like, hey, we're going to move into your first dance. Are you ready to go? Like all this stuff. There's so much planning and so much that we have to be on top of that goes so unnoticed most of the time.
Yeah.
Occasionally I get someone that's like, oh, like, thank you for doing this. And it's so unexpected of me because there's a lot of DJs that I'm sure don't do that and just have someone else do it. But, that's a huge part of our job is just like keeping the day organized, being on top of everything. So
Yeah. I mean, that's and that kind of leads into what I would say about what surprised people is that it's more than just playing songs. A lot of people think that's what it is. And I always tell them, like, you could do that yourself. You could do a playlist. You probably do a decent job about picking the music you and your friends like.
Yeah.
But a large part of what we do is cultivating, creating, and maintaining an atmosphere where people feel comfortable enough to dance and let go and party and have a good time. And there's a lot of things you have to do that. There's a lot of things that are totally out of your control. I've done one where they had me set up my turntables in a different room from where my speakers would be. So I could not see the dance floor at all. It was this weird country club where they had a separate room for the dance floor, and there wasn't enough space for me to be on that dance floor. So I had to run extension cables and have my assistant, luckily I had one, be like, are they dancing? Are they having fun? And then he'd run back, yep, it looks like they're having fun. Okay, well then I'm going to mix another one. Does it seem like they like it? Are they leaving the dance floor?
that's so
It's like doing surgery
impractical.
with a blindfold on, it's so silly. And so, luckily we made the best of that one. But yeah, there's a lot that goes to throwing a great dance party that you would never expect. And some of it is flow, and some of it is energy, and some of it is making sure things are happening and putting the crowd at ease. Like, hey, guys, let's grab our seats. We're going to have speeches, or hey, we're going to start dancing, that kind of thing. That it really, before I've even played a song, that goes into that, to making sure that it's a flawless, kind of seamless, fun day for everybody. And then, I would also echo on what you're saying is that, like, something that would surprise a lot of people about DJing is, everyone thinks, like, mixing the music is so important. They'll go and being cool is so important. But I've really found is that listening to your couple and listening to the crowd is more important. Being willing to make adjustments to your plan as you go, being flexible, rather than, oh no, if they don't like 90s trip hop, then they're in trouble because that's what DJ Request plays, even though DJ Request doesn't play requests.
Yeah. Knowing it's not about you.
Yeah.
You're still yourself. You're doing your own thing. You're doing what you think is best. You're using your best judgment, but it's about what the couple wants, what your crowd is analyzing your crowd.
Yeah, you got the experience, the expertise to know there's no way that song's going to hit. But if it does, I know another song is going to go well with it. And I always hear it say, and I'm sure I'll repeat this again and again, that good DJ plays music you like. A great DJ plays music you didn't know you liked.
Right.
That, like, this one, yes! That pulls out that excitement, that energy. It's something new, that gets people going. And ideally, leading to one of those culmination type moments where all of their family and friends are out there dancing and singing at the top of their lungs, and they all rush in to hug the couple, and they all have this amazing memory. We just had this really cool time. This is the end of your wedding, and what a way to finish it out on,
right,
kind of thing. So, but yeah, we do get a lot of people that come up that, hey, it's a party. I know how to party. Why don't you play this song? Or, when they come up and they're like, this song sucks. Okay, sorry to hear that you don't like the song. The couple liked the song. They told me to play it. What would you like instead? And they don't have anything. Not this. Or they'll give you some other, obscure song or song that doesn't, that's clear that they like it. It's their taste, but it's not what typically people would dance to at a wedding, or what, the couple has told me they want. And so you're like, oh, it's going to be like this all night. They're going to hate every song I play.
What's worse even than that, I feel like, is when, sometimes you just can't get the dance floor going, whatever, they're in, they're out. So I've had it where, like, you play one song, they're all out there, next song, they're gone. And there's like, it's not your fault. There's nothing you can do about it. It just happens sometimes. Which the worst though is when you have that guy coming up to you who's like, play this song. And it's like, yeah, the most obscure, weird song. No, I'm not going to play. And then there's like, well, why not? I'll play it. And then that song just hits so well.
Fires
and
so hard.
And then you can't be upset, but you are, because it's like,
Just
you know, the
makes
one
you feel
song
like
you
you don't know
play.
anything. Yeah.
Yep.
Makes you-
Yep.
Just that one time, I had somebody do that with like Kenny Rogers, the Gambler, one time with me. I'm like, what? You gotta know when to hold.
There's like one Kenny Rogers song we play, I think.
That or Islands in the Stream, or there's a couple ones. There's a good slow one that the right crowd will love. But yeah,
Right.
But yeah, not your typical. And these are young college somethings. Was the whole? They was mostly family, no, mostly friends at the wedding, and so I was like, no way. But it turns out it's a fraternity tradition to sing that song in his fraternity in the groom's. So they went nuts and they broke the dance floor. I got a picture of it. It was one of these wooden ones where outside, like in a field, you know, at a vineyard or something.
Yeah.
And they had this snap together wooden dance floor, and they just, whoever installed it didn't do a great job, and they just broke the dance floor, piece by piece by dancing on it, which is pretty cool.
And it's funny too, of like that's definitely like, a groom thing to not mention whatsoever. I'm sure it was never mentioned. Hey, by the way, this is like my frat. They do this at every wedding. This is the song.
Didn't even think of it.
Yeah.
Didn't even think of it. Yeah.
I mean, I was that groom. I didn't know what was going on most of the time. I knew
Whatever
all
you
the
think
key
is
events.
best, we trust you, man.
Yeah. Sarah's like, it's my wife. She's like, hey, what do you think about it? Yeah, should go for it. I don't care. It's like there's so many little details to the day, but
yeah, it is a lot. It really is, and it's it can be an overwhelming process to. And so it always makes me so sad when we sit down and like they're so stressed out and they don't even want to pick up a single song. Like, I can do this, but it's your wedding. I want your input. I want you to collaborate with you on this creative process of planning the music of what do you want to hear? What do you want to feel at your wedding? That to me is incredibly intimate, but also my whole career is music. So, they've worried about flowers and decorations and the dress and transportation and every other little detail. So by the time they get with me, it's like
burnt out on decision making.
And to me, the music is the funnest part. We're planning the party part now.
That's what everybody's waiting for. It's just to get to the party for sure.
So so I've tried to make that easier with that app we use. That makes it a little simpler for people to plan. It makes it more collaborative. They can share it with family and friends. If generally, I'm like, somebody in your wedding party, somebody in your family cares about this, and they'll know pretty good idea of what most people are going to like.
Absolutely. Try and tell couples too, like, you can do as much homework as you want to. Like,
yes.
If you want to give me 5 hours of music, go for it. And that was my last one. This weekend we had a 2-hour, 45-minute dance floor. They gave me 5 hours of music. I played like 2 of my own songs. I mean, all the stuff they gave me was exactly what they wanted, and they knew that. So it was like I can't promise to play everyone because we literally don't have time to do that. But like I will go into the best of the best of this playlist.
Whereas mine gave me 11 songs. Of course, I played all of them.
Yeah.
But all of them didn't hit, But then I'm like, what do I play for this crowd? It's the funny how that works. And it's a crowd, again, I expected that I know this crowd really well. It'll be fine.
Right.
And then they did something I didn't expect, so I had to adjust. But that's the fun part, is just really, you never know. Sometimes you do. What's really fun is when you're like, I don't know if this one's going to be that fun. Just the planning process has been difficult and awkward, and it's been tough to get music, and I don't know. And then you get there, and there's just so much energy. Their family and friends just love to party, love to have a good time.
Because you met the couple, but you haven't met their
right.
loved ones and friends yet. Yeah.
And what I've seen too, like when I meet with the couple, sometimes they're really stressed, or sometimes they're really chill, and then the wedding day they're really stressed. So you never know.
Right.
People, it's tough because you want people at their best, but it's a very stressful day in your life. So you're not yourself, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it's I always try to like take that with a grain of salt and adjust, and try to do my best. But it's always funny to see when you meet with somebody, and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be a tough one to get a good party going, and then it's not tough at all. And then the opposite of that, where it's like, this couple is so cool. It's going to be so easy. They're not afraid to dance. I can play anything.
Yep.
And then like, why aren't they dancing? What's going on? What am I doing wrong?
I try and set no expectations now because of that. I'd rather just be surprised every time. Like as soon as I assume, it's game over. I just never know what to expect for sure.
Yeah, and that's really kind of our style of DJing too. I know there's DJs that they do a whole set list. Like they've got their music, they've got their songs, they've already decided what's going to be played for that hour or whatever, and they don't alter from that. And you don't get to request a song in there. Like they're just. But wedding DJs, we really have to be more open format and more flexible and adjust on the fly a lot of times. With here's what the plan is, but here's what people are actually dancing to.
And it's good to be able to know like how to, get out of your idea of what, because sometimes that's just change. Sometimes you just have the bride or the groom coming up to you and they're like, hey, could we have this song next? And it's like, even though you've already planned like 10 songs ahead, you got to go in a completely different direction. And sometimes that can end up even being better than what you originally expected, which is the best of like, like you said, I didn't know that you had this frat song or whatever. And then we can go off of that or whatever,
I had this girl come up to me at the last one on Saturday that she was I think she was a bridesmaid or a friend of a bridesmaid anyway. She's young, and she's like, we were doing our like a third slow song set kind of. We had every 45 minutes I had to drop it and slow reset, and she's like, no more of this slow nonsense, she didn't say nonsense, but I was like, well, what would you like? Well, you put me on the spot. I was like, well, you're kind of putting me on the spot. What would you like to, And she couldn't come up with it, but give me some more middle school era stuff. And I go, well, hold on. When did you go to middle school? Because when I went to middle school, it's going to be different, than, do you want some Blink-182, some Eve 6? Some of that stuff didn't already work, So, yeah, she actually meant middle school, not so long ago.
Right.
So, but it worked out. I really feel like it was a really fun, cool wedding. And for our part, we did the very best we could. And we just made adjustments, and groom and bride were really happy, and the family's really happy. And
nice.
Multiple people, messaged me and sent stuff on Facebook how much they enjoyed it, and so that was really cool. That's awesome. That's a fun thing. So yeah, I that's kind of all I kind of had for this one. I don't know if there's any other topics or.
Oh, there's I guess one thing I was thinking of is we've been doing this for years, but I feel like there's always something to work on, new goals to set every year. I always try and focus on at least like one big thing, like whether it's my MC skills, DJing, mixing, whatever, to get better at. And you were bringing up this like getting 1% better, every day. Is there something like personally for me, I'm trying to learn new mixing techniques like this year. I have pretty solid mixes. Like everything is very smooth and I know my board really well, but like, and it's a lot of stuff that I know. Are people really going to notice? Like, no, not instantly. The small things that I'm doing, but they add up enough that like if I can take a dance floor from here to here, that makes a huge difference. So yeah, is there anything specifically you want to work on yourself this year as a DJ?
That's a great question. It probably has to be. There's usually 2 or 3 things I try to find. The biggest one, I play a lot of the same songs, so I like to keep it fresh and get out of that. But it's always nice to have that in the back of my, And so I really try to keep up with the latest trends, But I'm trying to find more songs that people didn't know they wanted to hear. They've heard before. It was overplayed back in the day, but you hadn't heard it in a while. But man, it's a jam. Drop that and then mix it in with something new, brand new. That like, I didn't know this would go together. That kind of thing. I am, of course, trying to work on more complicated mixes. I'd love to do more tone play and acapella use.
Right.
The Serato Stem software is pretty exciting, where you can actually just take a song and it'll pull the acapella part out, so you can mix in the acapella with an instrumental on another song.
Oh, okay.
Or take the drum track off and just do so you can make your own, record your own, which is kind of cool, and you can do that live. So I'm excited to hopefully pull some of that out if I can this year. That'd be kind of the second thing, and the third thing is it's kind of a combination of day of the emceeing, really hammering down the being confident, projecting well, not talking too much, but really setting the tone early on the night for we're going to have a good time, throwing some energy at the crowd, but some like confidence at the crowd. It's not, of course I can be loud and boisterous, and that doesn't matter, but it's like if I can get you to feel something, and that feeling is, you're in love with this couple and you're excited to get out there and dance. You can't wait to get on the dance floor. That's what I'm really trying to do with my voice before I play a song, just to really get that crowd revved up to boom.
And if people know how you're feeling based on how you're talking, and they know that you're having a good time,
Yeah.
that's going to push them to feel the same way and also have a good time, I feel like.
Yeah. And then the second part of that is doing the same with the couples when I meet with them, getting them excited, but also setting the expectation early on that we want them to have a good time. We want to know what that is. We want to work with them on that if they need help or whatever. But we want them going into the wedding excited, not stressed, as much as is in our control, but and confident that everything's going to work out, everything's going to be good, and you can have this great night. And we can personalize it to be everything that you envisioned and more.
Absolutely.
Play the songs they didn't know that they wanted to hear, for those couples, and do the things that they didn't know they wanted. That's there's so many things to that, which is so fascinating. Like this one I just had, they had I think it was 4 speeches and then a 5th surprise one. And then even the guy giving the blessing gave a surprise speech. Oh, that's the one to talk to you about. It was a unique thing. Never in my career. So I always check the batteries, right? Before I give somebody the mic.
Yeah.
Because I knew all these people and I was talking, that's the one thing I forgot. And so, it's 2 bars, no problem. That's 6 hours of battery life, right? Because they're fully charged, it's 9 to 12 or something. And I have this little battery meter on my display that's on the microphone. And I see that going down to 1. I'm like, oh no. But that's 1 to 3 hours. We should be good, right?
Right.
We introduced speeches at 6 o'clock. By 7:30, speeches were still going on.
Oh, wow.
And it's flashing at me during the maid of honor.
You're just waiting for it to cut.
Speech. And I'm like, no. So I have the batteries ready. I have Joey. I'm like, Joey, if I need you, you got to run in there and switch these out as fast as you can. I have a handheld mic to quickly announce and explain what's going on. And I'm like, it's going to go out, not the boring part. It's going to go out the most heartfelt part, because people build to that. They usually start with, hey, I'm so-and-so, if you don't know. They always start with that. And then they're like, well, they usually do some inside jokes that nobody knows, or they'll say some other stuff about, we're at knitting camp or whatever, and then they build to why this person is a great person, some really important moments and how they know they're going to be happy together. They build to that really, and she was at that part. I'm like, no, it's going to die right then. No, please don't. And you're cringing just because it looks so unprofessional,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and it's literally, this is the one time, I've done thousands of weddings, never had this issue. And it's and then sure enough, she wraps up. And then Tim motions to me that he wants to give a speech.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, that was not part of the plan, but I understand, of course. So I get on the mic real quick and I go, now at this time, Tim's going to give a speech, but before we do that, we're going to switch out the batteries real quick. And I go, as a DJ, you always want to be on top of that. And you're always like, no, you don't want it to go out the best part. I just told the crowd, honestly, what I was worried about. And everyone laughed and had a good time. And that gave Joey enough distraction to quick switch those out and hand off to Tim. And we were back in it.
Nice.
So I enjoyed that part, that let's just be honest with the crowd about what's going on, and they'll laugh and they'll, and then right next, and it's totally forgotten. And if it's remembered, they remembered that it was a fun thing rather than oh no, the battery died.
And early on, it helps humanize you a bit of hey, I'm also at this wedding too.
Yeah.
I'm human. Stuff happens. We didn't expect all these surprise speeches and extra things happening. And also, 2 bars. I just did my speeches, and I was at 2 bars. I'm like, no problem.
Yeah.
This will last hours, but it just happens sometimes.
I feel like we need to do a whole section of podcast about speech do's and don'ts, because you and I see a lot of them, and there's so many stories.
We could save weddings. We can save future weddings.
Maybe. They make or break. A lot of people think the DJ does it. It's the speeches. The speeches kill. You want to kill a good dance floor or a good party? Have
and the one thing that can throw off the schedule completely.
Oh my goodness! And then catering hates you.
Yep.
Everybody's upset because they got food that there's rules. It has to be served hot. It's so many crazy. Everyone's but we're all everything's good. Let's just do another 45 minutes on whatever topic. So and so soccer schedule. I've literally had them talk about that. There was one time a father bride shared each year of the kids' lives, both kids, the bride and the groom, and their major accomplishments that year, from birth to now.
Most of those people already know that stuff.
Yes, and it's what a resume, a weird.
It's a basic formula. It's really introduce yourself, tell a funny story, that can lightly make fun of you and the couple, but not in a harmful way.
Yeah, or shows the character of that person.
Yep. And then wrap it around with like a life lesson, a marital lesson, or just why you love them.
Yes.
And then then you're done.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
I'm
That's the way
starting
to
to tell
go.
my couples that. I'm like, who's giving a speech, and have you talked to them about their speech?
It's funny that we think we're actually going to change anything. These people that are giving terrible speeches don't care at all. They'll talk as long as they want.
The guy giving the blessing was like, I know we've had a lot of speeches, but I'm going to keep this short. And he did not keep it short. He went on for another 10 minutes. And he's supposed to just give the prayer. But he had a whole thing that he prepared.
They just don't know how people don't know how long they're standing there. And then it's also the you don't know when to stop. And there's so many speeches too where I'm like, this went great, but then they kept going.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, if you would have stopped then, that would have been great.
Beautiful, great
you
moment.
Killed it. But the extra 10 minutes ruined it. I don't want to say ruined it, but definitely brought it down in quality.
I do think there's something there that a lot of people don't realize when you publicly speak, that less is better. If you don't have anything super interesting to say or give, it's mostly the same. People are repeating themselves. Here's a good thing. Here's another good thing. Here's another good thing. After 3 good things, you're kind of like, well, yeah, they're a good person. You know, you don't need, unless that particular good thing had a very specific or unique story, it's not that interesting. It's nothing personal. It's just, you shared a story about me. We probably have 3 good things that would be somewhat interesting, and then moving on. It's best to keep it short and sweet. People are never upset that you talked really short. They're always upset that you talked too long. It's so fascinating how that works. That really does. It can adjust the energy that night. It drains people. People want to go to the bathroom. They want to get drinks. They want to dance. They want to get food. They're hungry.
Yeah.
And don't worry, guys. I'll keep it short. And that's a fact. When you say that, I know it's not.
That and I didn't want to write anything, so I'm just going to do this from the heart.
You're going to wing it. Yeah.
And that either goes really well or very bad. There's really no in between there, I feel like. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think people get going, and it's almost like they get nervous, so they keep going.
Yeah.
They go off script. They go off speech. They're going to want me to, and they're almost like, I don't know if when I was in college, it was part of like an improv group, and you want to go out on a banger. You want to have a funny joke line and then scene, cut the. So a lot of times you'll just keep going until you find anything that's of value to wrap up on.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens in speeches, where you're like, okay, yeah, well, I had a plan, but I don't want to close it yet because I haven't got that laughter from the crowd or that awe moment from the crowd.
Absolutely.
And so they're searching for it, and they're just going to keep talking, and it doesn't happen. So I've seen some great ones too, but the great ones always had those things in common, that the person had practiced it, they wrote it out, they timed it, they kept it short and sweet, and it was all valuable. Every line they said was valuable. There was no waste in it.
I was happy. Not a bad speech at my wedding.
Yeah.
All of them are so solid.
I went on a little long, to be honest, but that's hard to do.
It was also a dual speech, and it was like you guys had planned it out, and it didn't feel long. I never felt uncomfortable at all.
I'm sure.
In any moment.
Because you know me and you love me and I love
Yeah.
you. But my guess is there was people in the crowd who didn't know me who were like, "How long is this guy talking?" And I know not to do that, but here I am, because this is your best friend, and you want to just gush on him in front of everybody,
Right.
And how can I summarize Chris Sardt in just 2 minutes or less? I can't. It's well, of course it's impossible. But. People who were there know, and they love you, and they, most of the stuff they're going to know. And the really juicy stuff you really can't share anyways.
Right. True.
All the really fun factoids.
For later in the night. Yep.
You got to be there for those ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else? I think this is a pretty good first one.
Yeah, I don't think so. Nothing on my mind at this time. But
Awesome. Well, let's
good talking, and
stop them, and we'll
Sounds
see you
good.
next time. We're going to try to do this once a week.
Yep. We're Amplified Events. I'm Chris.